Good afternoon, everyone, and you're all very welcome to Thursday's US session open. So apologies, running slightly later than usual due to some technical issues here with Zoom. So I suppose before we kind of get looking at this price action at the charts, let's take a quick look at the price action broadly speaking. So looking at the economic calendar for today, in the broader sense or in the broader generalization, a lot of mixed data showing in the market today, right through from the European session to this morning in terms of the German retail sales and unemployment, right through to some of the US data that we've seen today. Now, as we know, Thursday, the 30th of June, we know it is month end. So we're expecting kind of balance of portfolios, balancing of fund books and larger kind of investment pools. So we're expecting kind of a lot of volatility into month end. And of course, for June, that definitely hasn't disappointed, as we have seen the price action continue to remain volatile after what was a very, very choppy afternoon yesterday with the ECB forum, but through to last night's price action, through to the session open today, we have seen the markets grind lower again off some of that bearish news, bearish fundamentals that we're seeing through the markets today. So I suppose before we look at the market profiles, let's just take a quick scan at the chart. So the very quick observation here is that the dollar has seen considerable rallies over the last day or so, again alluding and kind of recognizing that kind of risk off play that we're currently seeing in the markets as we turn risk negative in terms of the sentiment. And of course, we only have to look at any of these indices. So we've got our 6 primary indices here, where we saw it yesterday in the US session, the volatility in the Dow Jones, in the Nasdaq, and of course the S&Ps with that heavy selling into last night's close, and of course through the European session this morning, where we currently stand at these shorter term lows. So across the board, the negative or bearish sentiment is still very much in the markets. So it's important to be kind of cognitive and recognizing the fact that we are kind of in that short-term bearish market into what is obviously June month end. In the European markets this morning as well, off some of that German data, we have seen the DAX flood lower this morning. We have seen the Euro stocks also flood lower as well, and you can even see that in the 30-minute prints, that massive sell-off pre-market this morning, kind of into 7, 8 o'clock, where we did see a little bit of a bottom out in the last hour or so. So again, it's recognizing that, kind of incorporating that. And of course, our good friends in the UK, the Ftse, seeing how the price action at the minute is continuing to kind of drag lower. So into month end, we are seeing that traditional sell-off we talk about in the Ftse as the markets continue to sell off. So it started this morning overnight between kind of 6 and 7 a.m. We saw it through into the open, and then we saw it kick on again from about 9 o'clock a.m. this morning UK time, where the price action is now continuing to grind lower into that month-end book of business that we actually that we talked about at the beginning. So it's just about being recognizing of that, as we said before, and just being cognitive of the elements at play within the market. So I suppose when I look at the S&P today, we actually are creating some short-term lows here around this 3750, 3760 level, and we are kind of at kind of short-term session highs from the European session this morning at 8:30. So we're kind of hovering around that 3780 level. So it'll be interesting to see, do we see that kind of a little bit of a relief rally to undo some of that selling, or do we see further declines coming through on the back of the 2:33 p.m. open, given the bearish news and bearish data we've seen today? And again, is that going to have a knock-on effect at the open? Well, time will tell, and let's wait and see. Similarly, again, with the Nasdaq, again, very, very similar structure in terms of the price action. Forming some nearer term lows after some significant selling overnight and very, very early this morning. And again, 11,450, 11,500 is where we're currently standing at the minute. So personally speaking, I'll be watching this 11,600 level to see if there's a brief short-term pop. We tend to see that, manipulated moves, short-term rallies, and then follow it in with another cusp of selling price action. So again, just being patient, being pragmatic, as we always say, and then have clearer focal points of where you want to get in, where you want to get out, and obviously being able to run those trades. Okay, similarly again on the S&Ps there, that area around 3,800 would be a nice selling point, given the volatility we saw last night, given the volatility, given those wick lows before we broke through. So it'll be interesting to see, does the price action get back into this level? And that is something that I'll be looking at personally speaking on the S&Ps. Similarly, again, on the Nasdaq, this 11.6 handle, I think, is going to have a lot of interest, I think, today. So again, watching that 11.6 to see, does the price action get into it? Do we reject it, or do we actually top out even before that level is met? So it's just being recognizing of that as well. On the Dow Jones, very, very similar scenario on the Dow Jones as well. Just before we move to the market profiles, very, very clear consolidation of this liquidity level. Price action hammered lower again off the data very, very early this morning as we find a short-term bottom at around 30,700. So again, I'll be watching to see, does the price action make a short-term relief rally, or are we getting straight selling off the back of this region here around 3750, 3800? So again, that brings in our market profiles, broadly speaking. So if we look at our market profiles for the day, into, as we said, month's end, 3770 is our POC on the S&P. So looking at the S&P as we stand, 3773 approximate region on most brokers, most platforms, 3770. So you can see here on the C letter prints, we're marginally above the market profile point of control. So again, watching that to see, we do have value highs up around 37.96. So it would be absolutely ideal to see the price action make that short-term rally into that level, that those price points we're looking at, reject the value highs, come off those value highs, and maybe set that high of the day for potential further selling. Whether that happens or not, let's wait and see. But just being kind of recognizing of these price points of these areas, and I suppose being able to follow that through with a clear and coherent trading plan as well. So that's something that I'll be looking at, these value highs up here around 37.96, given the fact that the minute the price action is, broadly speaking, trying to rally off that POC level here at 37.70. So keep that in mind. On the Nasdaq, meanwhile, Nasdaq 100. Looking at the price points, looking at our market profiles for today, we can obviously see that the POC 11,480. Now, currently speaking, we are 11,526. We are a decent amount above the POCs, but as we know, that can very, very easily change very, very quickly. So at the minute, we are grinding back into this region up here. We've kind of talked to between 11,60 and 11,580. So again, that will be the interesting area that I'll be looking at to see, does the price action make highs of the day up around this region? And if so, will it be followed up with consistent selling from beyond that region? So again, looking at this level with interest as we speak at the minute, we are grinding up, and you can actually see the POC levels at the minute getting up to 11,535. So very much kind of in the zone of interest that we would like to see on the market profiles. And of course, last but not least, looking at Dow Jones. Just before we look at the open, we'll stay on for the open as well. We're seeing the price action here. Again, similar scenario, 30,900, which was the level of interest yesterday, which we broke through. That is where our value highs are currently set. Our POC is just marginally above 30,700, and our value lows way down here as well. So looking at that, 30,712, we are borderline pretty much sitting on our point of controls as we speak into the open today. So again, it'll be all eyes to see, is there a little bit of a spike? Is there a little bit of a relief rally of some of that heavy selling? Or does it mean a case of where the price action just rejects these POC levels and continues selling off? So that's bringing us now right into the 2:30 open. So I'm just going to dial down to the shorter time frames just to kind of see the short-term momentum basis. S&P is still holding much of its bid so far into the open, but of course that can very, very easily change. And as we see it, we're just starting to see the price action ticker between bullish and bearish, but still holding above that point of control we talked about at 37.73. Nasdaq, again, seeing that little bit of a bump and run on the Nasdaq still, so it's holding still a little bit of its bid. It would be more than ideal to see the Nasdaq get back up into this region. So let's keep an eye on that in the first kind of 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then, of course, assessing where the first 30 minutes of the market open actually closes and resonates to set kind of a bias for the course of the afternoon. So initially, buys on the S&Ps, buys on the Nasdaq with a few wicks appearing, and of again probably less or so the Dow Jones remaining quite laboured, which is meaning that the Dow Jones is actually underperforming in comparison to its two compatriots in the Nasdaq and the S&Ps. So structurally speaking, buys are in the Nasdaq, buys are in the S&Ps temporarily, but watching to see where does these highs form, because no doubt we saw it on, I believe it was Tuesday. If you go back up here on Tuesday, we had that massive impulse in that first 30 minutes. That was pretty much the high of the week. And then all of a sudden, since then, the price action moved very lower very quickly. So just factoring that in, very, very, very easy to see how the price action go from being bullish to bearish, and then all of a sudden go the opposite way very, very quickly. And of course, again, just factoring this in over here. Sorry, guys, that's it there. Actually, my chart's kind of awkward. And again, similarly on the Nasdaq as well. Highs of the week, price action then comes off this area up here, clear rejection after buying on the 230, and then it fails almost immediately. So we could be looking for a similar scenario on Tuesday, with initial kind of buying impulses and then all of a sudden kind of fading off. And as we see at the minute, price action is starting to do that. So let's just keep an eye on the price action into 3 p.m. just to see kind of where the price action lands in that first 30 minutes. And then at least that way, then we'll have a clearer directional bias for the course of the afternoon. But things are starting to run low already. S&Ps are starting to sell off. So that initial impulse is not really sustaining so far. It was initially, but not anymore. So price action starting to reject. And of course, here as well, on the Dow Jones as well, price actions actually breaking to new lows. So that means that the bears are still trying to gain control, still assuming control after what was a very, very negative sentiment overnight. So of course, 4:30 p.m. we do have Ftse month-end closes, so we will be on board in the discussion group for the Ftse month-end close as well, factoring in portfolio rebalancing and everything that goes along with it in the traditional sense for month end. All right, so that's pretty much it for today's YouTube session. So of course, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. You can get through to us on any of the social media pages. Also, you can join our community as well, where you'll be on hand to get all the latest information, discussion points and topics associated to the markets as well. All right, have a great day everyone, and thanks a million.